I'm going to go ahead and go live everywhere else. All right, cool. I think I'm live everywhere else. Let's see. Yep, I'm live everywhere else. All right, y'all. So I'm basically doing it like one of those ask me anything type of things because I know I'm not going to be live tomorrow or Saturday. So, just to go ahead and feed the algorithm gods. Tomorrow, I'm going to be going down to Miami. I'm be with family. I got, some things going on. I'm not sure if y'all were here last week, but as I said last week, I have a family member who passed away. So that's where I'm going to be at tomorrow and Saturday. I come back home on Sunday, but I may not be in the mood to stream that day. So I just decided to let me just do this today. So we can, talk. I can go ahead and get some content out because I definitely, still appreciate everybody who's always here, always supporting me. And so I just wanted to, go ahead and do a quick live, do a short one. Yeah, do a quick live, do a short one, and then we talk. Y'all can ask me questions. Today is actually the day I am gonna talk to the comments. I usually say I'm not gonna talk to the comments. That's what I usually say. Because like I feel that talking to the comments just distracts from what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? And talking to the comments, like it doesn't get anywhere because by the time I say one thing, you're gonna say something else. So that's why I just never talk to the comments. But today I actually will talk to the comments. Today I actually will take your questions in. We'll have some discussions with people. I will do that today. Today's a day that I'll do that. But I'm not gonna be here tomorrow. I'm not gonna be here Saturday. Sunday is a maybe. It depends on how I feel. Depends on the mood. No, Shroud, you're a leftist. You can't spell atheist, and you probably think you're an expert. I did misspell atheist, didn't I? Yeah, I did misspell that. Yeah, I did misspell that. Yeah, you're right. I misspelled that. Let me go and fix that now. That's all good and well. I'll actually fix that now. When it comes to being an expert, I won't call myself an expert in. Well, that depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about like, my history, then yeah, I could be an expert in that. But yeah, I did misspell atheist. I went ahead and fixed that. That's something I'll always do because I'm so used to the rule I after E. I'm so used to the rule I said I after E. I'm so used to the rule I before E. Yeah, I mean I'm so used to that rule. So it's like now whenever that happens, I'll always spell it wrong. But yeah, so Death Colony asked, which prison are you recording from? I'm home, actually. I'm at my house. Hey, how's it going, Saint Rashad? How's it going?
Rashid, how you doing?
I'm all right. How you doing? You got any questions for me?
Yeah, at first sometimes I'll be thinking that Pan-Africanism has died, but then I'll see somebody to be like, nah, I'm a Pan-African. So do you live in America right now?
I live in the United States, yeah.
So this is the thing. I'm assuming that most of the people you try to get on the Pan-African thing live in America. I feel like it would make more sense to get Africa on the Pan-African thing because I think that would be the biggest obstacle than getting people in America to be on the Pan-African thing. Would you agree with that?
No, because I don't live in Africa. If I lived in Africa, that would make sense. Like I would try to go ahead and get more people over there within Pan-Africanism, but there are Pan-African organizations in Africa that actually do try to do that. But since I'm living in the United States, the people that I'm going to connect with are going to be in the United States. You know what I mean? So if I don't live in Ghana, how can I tell people in Accra to get on Pan-Africanism if I don't know the material conditions? I know the material conditions of people who live over here and the people who live in Haiti, so I can get them on Pan-Africanism, but I don't know the material conditions of people in Accra or Lagos or Nairobi or anything like that. So I'm not going to be able to speak to their to their conditions and try to get them over. But I can speak to us to see to let us know how Pan-Africanism would benefit, or how we can come together to express it within our material conditions, if that makes sense.
Well, the thing is, Black Americans don't have any resources, and we're not the majority. So it would make more sense, in my opinion, to try to Pan-Africanize Africa, where they're the majority and they have all the resources.
Of course, I make that. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. I'm saying that I can't speak to how Pan-Africanism would work over there because I don't live there. I would need to understand the material conditions. In principle, I agree with you, right? We should all be on a Pan-African tip. Like right now, Nigeria should say, unless y'all fix y'all issues with policing, we're not going to sell you oil. Ghana should say, unless over in Europe y'all fix y'all issues with racial bias, we're not going to sell you our chocolate. Yeah, I mean, the same thing that the Sahel states are doing, where they take back control of their resources. That should be the attitude for everybody over there. It's just unfortunate the leaders over there are still colonized. The leaders, like people, like young people who are Pan-African in Africa will tell you, a lot of our leaders are colonized. That's the only reason why a lot of this stuff doesn't happen. But as those people start to pass away, then people who are more on the tip of uniting with each other are going to take over, which is what we see with Ibrahim Traoré and all the other Sahel state leaders who are taking back their resources and not just falling towards or doing more things for the colonizers than doing for themselves in their country. You see what I'm saying? But as far as the United States goes, since I live here and I know more about the material conditions here, then I can speak to, okay, how do we actually do Pan-Africanism and applying it to our conditions over here? I agree with you that, Black people in America have limited resources. You see what I'm saying? But with the limited resources that we do have, with the talent that we do have, we can still organize in some ways, like how the Panthers did.
So how does Pan-Africanism benefit Black Americans? Because from my perspective, what I see a lot of is Africans, Jamaicans, Caribbeans, and Haitians coming to America and then getting the money they make here and sending it back to their country. So how does Pan-Africanism help Black Americans?
Well, most of the money that we're going to make here, we're going to spend in America anyway, right? Because we live here. Like, there's no way that we can send the majority of our money back home. Like I live here, this is my house. I got to pay, rent and mortgage and stuff. I'm not going to be sending my mortgage money back to Haiti, right? So the majority of the money we're going to spend here, but of course people need help. I'm going to go ahead and help them out. But as far as your question,
what about us?
That's what I'm talking about. Like when it comes to the United States, that's when I try to, like, for example, me personally, right? I'm in master's program right now to become a therapist, because I know when I went through terrible things, went through very violent things, I had no one to speak to. So that's going to be my talent. That's going to be my contribution to uplifting the Black conditions in America, speaking towards our mental health conditions. You see what I'm saying? Through that, what I can do is I can link up with organizations. The one that I'm with right now is called Black Men Build, and they have chapters in Miami, Atlanta, Philly, Houston, places like that. And I can use my expertise to help the brothers out there, the brothers and the sisters out there, with their mental health conditions. You feel what I'm saying? That's what I can do to make a primary focus on Black people when it comes to our mental health. There's when it comes to like other people who have talent, like accountants, doctors, I think the primary service should be towards Black people in America. That's the Pan-African mindset that I'm coming from. Does that make sense?
Not really, because that's not really Pan-African if you are doing it, and then if there's organizations that are in America. When I think of Pan-Africanism, I'm thinking of Garvey and him telling everybody to go back to Africa. But no, if you're helping people in America, how would that be Pan-Africanism?
because the people I'm primarily helping are black people.
Which are Black Americans, but wouldn't
Correct.
Pan-Africanism be trying to lift up everybody of African descent?
Yeah, Black Americans are acting for African descent. So, and since I'm around Black Americans and I'm around Caribbean people, that's who I'm going to be helping. I'm kind of struggling with what you're saying is not Pan-Africanism here, because if I'm primarily assisting and focusing on people of African descent, how would it not be Pan-Africanism?
Because we're in America.
Correct.
Right. So how would
we're still African descent? You just said like Pan-Africanism is uplifting people of African descent. We're in America, but we're all still of African descent, and that's who I'm uplifting. So how is it not Pan-Africanism?
By that definition, then people that are in the FBA movement would be Pan-Africans because they want to uplift FBAs.
They want to uplift FBAs at the exclusion of everybody else. I'm not trying to do that. I'm at the exclusion of other black groups. I'm not trying to do that. Like for example, I'm not gonna open up my office and say that if you're not Haitian, you can't. I'm not gonna help you out. I'm not doing that.
Well, you couldn't do that if you were a therapist. That would be illegal.
Right, exactly. It would be illegal. I'm not gonna be able to do that. Now, when it comes to FBA, right? I don't have like a large like the only issue that I have is when it becomes like kind of xenophobic. That's the only issue that I have. But when it comes to like, you know, we want to do this for our group, yeah, fine. I don't have an issue with that.
What defines xenophobia? Because what I'm seeing is, from my perspective, a lot of black immigrants have came to America and been highly disrespectful, and then foundational black Americans have reacted to that, and now everyone is pointing the finger at them instead of pointing the finger at the root cause, which was what I said previously.
Well, actually, two questions. Have Black Americans been disrespectful to the immigrants that came in as well? Have, like, for example, when Haitians first came to the United States, did they receive disrespect from Black Americans?
Not as a whole, no.
Of course not not as a whole, but I will say the exact same thing. When Black immigrants came to the United States as a whole, did all of them disrespect Black Americans?
I would say most, yes.
Okay, how do you quantify that?
I'm speaking from my experiences and from the experiences of other people I know that are also Black Americans. When immigrants come to this country, they'll be like, "Oh, stay away from Akatas, stay away from Jarirs, stay away from Yanks because they're entitled and they're lazy."
I got you. But do you see the double standard you just put there? Because like Black immigrants like myself, I can say the exact same thing, right?
What, did somebody said something mean to you at school, or?
Yeah, not just somebody, but you see, now you're diminishing, because everything that you just said, I could you said disrespect, but I can say, oh, they were just disrespecting you at school. I can say the exact same thing.
Yeah, they was roasting you. That's what Black Americans do. They roast people. I'm talking about somebody telling their kids to stay away from these people because they're violent.
Yeah, I can say the exact same thing, bro.
Black Americans don't do that. That's not.
But you see, hold on. I know that you've never seen that, but what I'm saying is that I grew up in Miami, right? When I was growing up in Miami, that's exactly what we heard from Black Americans. We heard that Haitians were not as smart as other Black people. We heard that we smell. We heard that we sacrifice babies. I heard all of that. As a matter of fact, in Florida, like any Haitian who grew up in Florida would tell you that we had something called Haitian Day down here in Miami, in Orlando, where all the other kids would gang up on us and physically attack us. It wasn't just roasting. Like, I've been through Haitian Day. You see what I'm saying? But every time we speak towards that, we hear what you say. Black Americans don't do that. So how can you, we have to accept your experience, but you can't accept mine. You see the problem there?
Nah, because I just don't see it as that big. I've seen Black Americans helping. Black Americans are the biggest Pan-Africanists.
Rashid, hold on. You didn't actually address what I actually said. When I was growing up, we got physically assaulted and denigrated and dehumanized for being Haitian. This is something that Black Americans have done to me before. But if I speak to that experience, like you just did, you completely ignored it. Can you accept that I've had
Yeah,
that
no,
experience?
no, yeah, of course, that probably
Cool.
happened. That I'm not gonna say it's probably, but yeah, that
Happened.
happened.
Exactly. So when I say that the disrespect, I can say that if black immigrants had gotten the same thing from black Americans, we just can't diminish it. We have to accept each other's experience. But at the end of the day, this experience is the experience passed in the past, right? I'm damn near 40 now. This should happen when I was like 12. It's done. Like I'm over it, right? Like I've been with black American women. I have black American people that I volunteer with all the time. It's all good and well. We was kids. We was dumb. You see what I'm saying? But I do understand what you mean. I do understand what you're saying, right? Like the disrespect that black Americans have gotten from black immigrants is gross and disgusting, and that got to get checked. I do agree with that. That's not something that I disagree with. What I'm saying is that if we're speaking to each other's experience, right? And I asked you, is it as a whole that black immigrants have disrespected black Americans? And you say most of them, and you said because of my experience. I can say the exact same thing towards you. Because of my experience, most of the people that I've known who are immigrant have gotten disrespect from black Americans. We can say the exact same thing, and we're just gonna go back and forth with the Depression Olympics. It doesn't get us anywhere. That's why I'm Pan-African more, because this doesn't get us anywhere. We spend about 5-10 minutes on this, doesn't get us anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, it's all like we just got to check the people who are disrespectful, because anybody who's disrespectful to any black ethnic group is just anti-black. That's just how I call it. You're disrespectful to black Americans, you're anti-black. You're disrespectful to Jamaican people, you're anti-black. You're disrespectful to people who are from Nigeria, is anti-black. It's all just anti-blackness. That's all what I just say. Because us going back and forth on who had it worse, who's more respectful, who did more to what, et cetera, where does that get us, bro?
What the thing is, it's the people that had it worse were black Americans. I understand that your experience happened. Let me say it like this. The only black group that has the charge thrown at them that they don't have culture and they don't know who they are, who is that only black group?
Black Americans were the only ones who that happened to. I agree with that.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's more prevalent. And then also the second thing is you do not see black Americans going to Jamaica and being disrespectful. You don't see them going to Haiti and being disrespectful. You definitely don't see them going to Africa. The only black Americans that would go there would be to support Pan-Africanism. But you see the direct opposite. That's why I'm not trying to minimize what happened to you, but I'm trying to say that it's totally different, because we aren't going there and looking down at poor people and saying, oh, well, I'm not poor, so y'all shouldn't be either. But you see the exact opposite, like with people like Candace Owens, people like Myron Gaines. They're coming from not so well places, come to America, seeing people in the ghetto and saying, well, I've heard that so many times. I'm a Nigerian immigrant, and Nigeria is so bad, and I'm doing so good in this country. You can't do good. We've seen this narrative multiple times. And I don't have anything against Africans or anybody from the diaspora, but I think that Pan-Africanism I just don't think it's gonna help black Americans specifically. And that's why a lot of black Americans aren't with it.
All right, but here's the thing. Number one, Myron Gaines and Candace Owens would disparage Pan-Africanism in of itself. They don't even like black people. They don't even like Africans. Yeah, I mean, Myron Gaines would probably speak up for Palestine all the time. He says nothing about what's going on in Sudan. So they don't even like black people. That's not a good. So using them to say we're not with Pan-Africanism is kind of silly, because they would disparage Pan-Africanism themselves. But that's the first thing. But the second thing that I would say is that, yeah, I do want to understand that, right? That disrespect of not having a culture. I think that comes more from the sense that America itself is an amalgamation of different people. So therefore, everything that America has came from somewhere else. You see what I'm saying? So that's why that's just my theory on it. That's where it comes from. But I do agree with you that, yeah, that disrespect needs to stop, and people need to stop saying that. I myself in real life have told people that are Haitian that no, y'all shouldn't be saying that. That's fucked up to say, because you're out here wearing how they wear their clothes. You wasn't wearing that in Haiti. You know what I'm saying? So that's the second thing. But the third thing that I would say is that when you said that you don't see black Americans going over to other countries and disrespecting the people, there are a lot, like this just happened like in Hurricane Melissa. In Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica, there were a lot of people, Jamaicans, going online saying that, yeah, there are African Americans coming down here and treating us like shit. You know what I'm saying? So that does happen. But I don't think that's a Black American attitude in general. Just like I don't think that's a Black immigrant attitude in general to look down on Black Americans. It's not an attitude in general. It's just a lot of it is just based on ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of it is based on basically not understanding cultural mannerisms or narratives. That's really what it's all about. But I don't think in general, like, you know, some average kid, some average 15-year-old living in Lagos doesn't like Black Americans for some reason. Like, whoa, he's not thinking about that. You see what I'm saying? So it's like I think this is what I think this is where Pan-Africanism actually helps, because if we see ourselves as having a common struggle, we're not all, you know, the same, but we do have a common struggle, and we do have more similarities than we have differences. Then that would break down the barriers of, I think this person doesn't like me because they were born somewhere. That's kind of silly.
So I understand what you're saying. Let me just say one more thing, and then I'll let somebody else come up.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen this happen in recent history where an African immigrant or Somali or anybody will come to America and be able to get a loan from a bank way easier than a Black American?
No.
Now, see, I've seen that a lot. I've seen that so many times where Black people can't get no loans, and then somebody comes here from Zimbabwe, they automatically get a loan and then make a gas station, and they ain't even been here for like 2 days. And I think a lot of Black Americans could attest to what I'm talking about.
Zimbabweans aren't the ones building gas stations. That's more the people who are Arab or Persian. They're the ones building.
I've seen West Africans, dark West Africans, have gas stations.
Yeah, we have gas stations. There are West Africans who build gas stations. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. What I'm saying is that the thing of like a Black immigrant person just coming into America with like zero assets and getting a gas station, that typically doesn't happen. They have some sort of asset already. There are people who are Nigerian that have oil wealth, right? So they can come here and build a gas station because they're connected to something. But like just some 21-year-old coming here from the University of Lagos with $5 in his pocket getting a loan for a gas station, that's not gonna happen, bro.
But this is what I'm saying. I think people could attest to that has happened. Like, we've seen it happen where somebody comes here, they somehow get a loan, and then we don't get loans
because they have connections. They have some sort of connection. Yeah, they have some sort of connection. Like they either know a wealthy person that put in the word for them, but like a person like my dad who came here with $10 in his pocket from Haiti, he only spoke Spanish and Haitian Creole. You really think he got a loan like that quick? Nah, bro, that's not happening. He didn't get his home loan until he was here for probably maybe another 10 years. I think when the year I was born, that's when he got a home loan. And that's only because I think he had to put up the church for collateral in order for him to get that loan. Like it was a lot they had to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, people aren't just coming here with no credit, no assets, and getting a loan. At least
all right, we could agree to disagree, but it was definitely a nice talk.
All right, not a problem. I appreciate you, Rashid. You have a good night. All right.
Yes, sir. Have a nice one.
All right, guys. I do appreciate y'all. I do apologize that I haven't gotten to the comments yet. Let me see. Someone just Googled Pan-Africanism. Okay, yeah. So that's what Pan-Africanism is. Let's see. Why are you such a moron? I'm such a moron because you see, the thing is, I had sex with your mother last night, and she must have given me the moron disease. All right, start a daycare in Minnesota. I don't live in Minnesota. Let's see. I don't think he knows how bank loans work. Yeah, you just can't get them. Let's see. Someone says, I'll pray for you. Cool. Pray for me. I'll think for you. If you are Haitian, then you are not an immigrant. You are an American, Aboriginal. Haiti is an American island. I don't even. I don't even. Yeah, that's kind of silly. All right, let me go over to my Deconstruction Junction page. Hey, Deconstruction Junction, I appreciate y'all being here over on the Deconstruction Junction. Someone asks, live live or live? I guess live from Australia and African. I see disrespect. Okay, live in Australia, and I see disrespect everywhere when it comes to Africans. Though TV comedy, yeah. the media tends to put out like very, very negative portrayals of anyone who's of African descent. That's what happens. To be honest, I think that's what a belief system is, a system to train you to ignore the truth. I didn't think believers choose their belief system. Yeah, believers don't choose their belief system. It's pretty much imposed at birth. What the fuck is Pan-African? Pan-African is the ideology of the people of African descent uniting for economic, social, and political autonomy away from Western and or colonist mindsets. That's what Pan-Africanism is. Bro, why do you speak English? I was born in the United States. That's why I speak English. All right. So someone else asks, is morality subjective or objective? Morality is subjective. Even if a God were to exist, morality would still be subjective because it's subject to that God's whims. Whatever that God says goes. So it's a completely arbitrary. And if it doesn't work that way, if things are right and wrong, no matter what God says, then that means that morality doesn't require a God. It's something above it at that point. All right, guys, go ahead and keep liking the live and sharing. Keep liking the live and sharing. I do appreciate y'all. If y'all have any questions for me, go ahead and ask them. This is one of the days I actually do talk to the comments, and I do apologize that I've missed a lot of them. I do apologize that I missed a lot of them, but I'm reading them all now. I'll ask again, what is Pan-African? Pan-Africanism is the ideology that people of African descent, specifically sub-Saharan African descent, should unite and gain autonomy through political, social, and economic autonomy away from former colonizers. That's basically the basic definition of Pan-Africanism. I don't have a phone number tonight. I didn't put up a phone number. I'm just talking to the comments tonight. Today, I'll talk to the comments. Debate Q top. Q bottom actually blocked me, and I don't know what I did. So Q bottom blocked me. Let's see. Why do you think Pan-Africanism is viable? Pan-Africanism I think is viable. Really because of history. We've seen the viability and the power of Pan-Africanism already. During the revolutionary times, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, to gain civil rights in order to decolonize Africa, all that was done through the Pan-Africanist mindset. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think it's viable. If there is a God, then morality would be objective because it applies to all. It wouldn't. I actually could disagree with it, right? Like if God says that unaliving babies is okay, I could disagree with that, right? You generally believe there's a practical possibility of a political union of the entire continent. Well, the European Union exists, right? Yeah, the European Union exists. Okay, you skipped mine. What was your question? The person that said I skipped it. The people who are coming in are over on my TikTok. So I don't have a phone number today. I didn't put up the phone number today. I'm just chilling today. I could probably put up my Google number. If y'all really want me to put in start the call-in line, I can go ahead and do that. Does Pan-African mean Native Black Americans are actually ancient Egyptians? No. African Americans, Black people on this side of the planet, the Black ethnic groups on this side of the planet, African Americans, people from the Caribbean, Black South American people, we're descended from Western Africans, Western and Central Africans, usually, the Niger region, Senegambia, the Congo. That's where we mostly derive from. That's mostly what we descend from. We're not ancient Egyptians. Now, that doesn't mean that the ancient Egyptians didn't kind of look like us, because I think genetic studies have shown that they probably kind of looked a lot more like us. But that doesn't mean that we're them. We're not East African. We're descended from Western Africa. Africa has more different cultures than Europe does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Here's the thing. Unity does not mean uniformity. Just because we're of different backgrounds doesn't suddenly mean that we're all going to be the same. And when it comes to Pan-Africanism, the entire idea is to decolonize and gain autonomy, because a lot of these countries in Africa, even though they're quote unquote decolonized, they don't have autonomy. There are several nations in Africa that still use the Central African franc as their currency, and that currency is made in France. And France gives those currencies to the African countries at an interest rate. So they're borrowing their own money. That there's no financial autonomy there. Pan-Africanism is to push for that autonomy. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that people in Kenya and people in Congo are going to have the same exact culture. That just means that, the autonomy that Kenya doesn't have from the UK, that Congo doesn't have from France, the autonomy would be with those countries instead of with those colonizers. That's where they could work together. You see what I'm saying? So it's not that the culture is going to be exactly the same. Like, what's a country in the European Union? If I'm not mistaken, Sweden or Finland, they're in the European Union, and Spain is in the European Union, but Finnish and Spanish culture are not the same, right? It's not about them being exactly the same. Ancient, let me see, what was it here? What's my favorite music group or artist? My favorite artists are J. Cole, Kendrick. I really like Jid. I like Jid. Let's see. Griselda. Griselda is dope. Griselda is that real East Coast rap that I miss from the back in the day. My favorite old school is, of course, Jay-Z, Nas, and Pac, and Big. And Big L. Those are my favorite old school. For the new school, I like Jid. Lil Wayne. I grew up on Lil Wayne, of course. For groups, I would say Hot Boys, Fugees. Those are the groups. Folks like that. If I want to look outside of hip hop, Beatles slap. I love the Beatles. The Beatles slap. System of a Down is also very, very dope. I grew up on System of a Down. I grew up on Rage Against the Machine. They're dope. I never got into Metallica, but I heard Metallica is very good. But I never got into Metallica. I did get into Aerosmith, though. I got really into Aerosmith. So those are some of my favorite groups, like outside of hip hop. How do you feel about current slavery in Africa? It's terrible. I'm not sure what else I can say about that. It's terrible. The Leibniz cosmological argument, I don't think is very good. I don't think it's good. Let's see. People need to learn their true lineage, not the story the colonizer taught them. I agree with that. Let's see. Research the ancient Egyptian Nubian dynasty. Yeah, they should. Let's see. Yet I have found that they were already in America since BCE, known as the Aztec, and all actually the same mass writing of Nubia. Yeah, that's just some weird shit. All right, so let's see. I could see various different regional movements in Africa, like a Pan-African West Africa, Pan-African East Africa. There are, movements to do that, right? There are like the East African Federation, the Sahel states, things like that. But the entire point of Pan-Africanism is they're all based in the same thing, because the East African Federation and the Sahel State Federation, it's all based on the same idea to decolonize. That's what it's based on. You feel me? For sovereignty, political, social, and economic sovereignty. Let's see. To be honest, I think okay, I read that already. Bye from Australia. All right, peace out from Australia. That's because the people who can travel the world, money and connections. Yeah, money and connections. That's what it is. It's all money and connections. Let's see. But exactly why do you think it's not good? What are your objections? What is it with the... Actually, I was wrong. Sorry about that, Master Assassin. I was thinking about the Kalam cosmological argument. That's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about Kalam. I don't think I ever heard of the Leibniz. I was thinking of Kalam. So if you can give me the actual argument of the cosmological argument, Master Assassin, go ahead and give me that one, because The one I was thinking about was the Kalam. The Kalam I don't think is good because at the end of the day, even if you give, even if you concede every I gotta get my YouTube back up. There it is. All right, y'all. I apologize. I do apologize. Sorry about that. I do apologize that y'all. Sorry about that. My laptop wasn't plugged in, and I thought it was. My laptop wasn't plugged in. I thought it was. I do apologize for that. I apologize that I went out there. All right. So someone asks, what are your thoughts on Ethiopia and the Ethiopian Bible? I think they're grifting, getting in the religious hustle. The Ethiopian Bible. The thing is, when it comes to Ethiopian Orthodoxy, right? I've always said that if Christianity spread in Africa naturally and not through colonization, it will look two ways. It will look like how the way that Ethiopian Orthodoxy looks, or it will look like revivalism. Revivalism is something that happens in Jamaica. My wife put me onto it, right? It's something that happens in Jamaica, right? In Jamaica, they're praising God, all that good stuff. They're praising, the Christian God and Jesus and everything like that. But they do it in a very Africanized faction with drums, with spiritual possessions, with running around in circles, with all the things that you associate with Western Africa, the face paint, all that good stuff, right? That's revivalism. I think if Christianity were to spread naturally in Africa, that's the way that it will look, either Ethiopian Orthodoxy or revivalism. As far as the Bible, when it comes to the Ethiopian thing, right? People love to use Ethiopia as a thing to say, oh, it was in Africa before Europe, but the majority of people on this side of the planet, the majority of black people on this side of the planet, were not Ethiopian. You know what I mean? So like niggas not following Ethiopian Orthodox. They're following Baptist, Methodist, United Church of God or Church of God in Christ. Those are the things that they're following. They're not following Ethiopian Orthodox. As a matter of fact, if you show them videos of Ethiopian Orthodox services, they'll call it demonic. They ain't following that shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I never like how they use Ethiopia as some sort of like, proof that like religion or like out like it's not a foreigner religion or Christianity didn't spread in Africa in horrid ways. Like I hate that. Yeah, I do apologize that my screen went out, y'all. It's because my laptop died and I didn't realize that my laptop died, so the stream went out. I didn't realize that it wasn't plugged in. Okay. There's only one mass rice system. Let's see. Ethiopia is what all revolves out of Africa. India is actually Ethiopia prior to colonial rule. I'm not sure. I may do a call-in line. I may do a call-in line just so you can explain what you mean by that. All right. How's it going? Safe? Is that your name? Safe Aiding?
Yes. My issue is you're not a leftist. I suspect you have no idea. Let me ask you: do you have a passport? Do you own a passport?
Yeah.
Have you ever been out of the country?
Yes.
Other than Mexico and Canada, where have you been?
Haiti, Bahamas.
Haiti, a total shithole. Bahamas, Kingston.
Kingston is in Jamaica.
Oh, there's also Kingston in the.
Yeah. 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 That wasn't going to get anywhere. I already saw that wasn't going to get anywhere. If God was a black woman, we'd all be doomed. Yeah, because black woman ain't gonna deal with this shit, bro. Everything that's going on in the world right now, black woman won't deal with that shit, bro. They would have, if God was a black woman, she would have sent the flood immediately. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, man. If God was a black woman, she wouldn't be dealing with this shit. They would have, she would have sent the flood immediately, bro. How's it going, Insultus? Let's see. Where do sinners go when they die? Hell, only Jesus Christ saves. Repent today. Tomorrow's not promised. Yeah, tomorrow's not promised. I definitely agree with that. Tomorrow's not promised. But why should I believe in Jesus? Why should I believe Jesus is the way for me to go? I don't know why Jesus is the way for me to go. All right. Pan-Africanism is dead. You better ask Kurumeyo Ahu. I have no idea who that is, nor do I care. If God is black, why did he curse Adam and Eve with skin the color of charcoal and bronze and wool hair? And if God loves his child, Jesus Christ, why would he visit that curse on him for no reason? I may open up a call-in line because I have no idea what you're talking about out there. This is so weird. All right, the Christian worldview is the only worldview with love, truth, morals, logic, science, and free will. All of the worldviews must borrow from the Christian worldview in order to make sense of itself. That is actually untrue. Humanism is not a Christian worldview, but it includes love, truth, and morals. The Christian worldview actually has a lot of circular logic and things that are illogical, such as an all-powerful being and somehow not being able to forgive anyone without a blood sacrifice. That seems illogical. There wouldn't be any free will in the Christian worldview, because if the all-knowing God also knows what's going to happen and every choice I'm going to make, I can't have free will because I can't do something different than what that God already knows. So I can't have free will. There's a lot of problems there. Let's see. I agree that Adam is fake. I'm Catholic, but I'm not here to convince you of nothing. I don't care. You're here breathing. You aren't the main character. I mean, I never said I was, so I'm not sure why you're saying that. Jesus Christ is just a promise that I think he can't make good on. True. I don't think Jesus could make good on that promise. All right. Connor says, you are loved by God, brother. Ask Jesus to fill your heart. Repent, believe, yada, yada. Yeah, I grew up Christian. I mean, so I've been through all this already. So I grew up Christian. I've been through all this already. So it's like, the thing is, I was convinced and now I'm not convinced anymore. I was convinced and now I'm not convinced anymore. So now all you gotta do is reconvince me. Let's see if you can. Let's see. According to a humanist worldview, where do morals come from? Morals come from our basic empathy, essentially. It all starts there. Humans are social creatures, and social animals had to build empathy in order to live amongst each other. Because if we don't have empathy, then we're not going to be able to effectively survive, right? We need to care about one another in order for us to effectively survive in the wild, essentially. So that's where morals come from. It comes from our basic empathy. The real God's not the God of the Bible. I don't think there's a God at all. Okay, on your free will argument, it's silly to say someone who saw you do something made you do it. That's not my argument. There's a difference between seeing me do something and knowing beforehand every decision I'm going to make. If God knows beforehand that I was going to wear a black shirt today, which is what I'm wearing now, then I didn't choose to wear the black shirt. I can't do anything different than what he already knows. If he already knows everything that I'm going to do and I can't make different choice, I can't do something different. If I'm able to do something different than what God already knows, he can't be all-knowing. He just can't be. So free will contradicts an all-knowing God. Let's see. When Adam and Eve betrayed God by eating from the tree of knowledge, God kicked them out of the Garden of Eden. He cursed them with black skin and woolen hair. Yeah, that's stupid. Because, Adam and Eve don't exist. So that's just stupid. Just because he knows doesn't mean he saw you do it. That's not what I said, though. He knows what I'm going to do, so I can't make another choice. Otherwise, he's wrong. I can't do something opposite from what an all-knowing God already knows. Otherwise, that makes an all-knowing God wrong. I forgot that. Hey, appreciate the hat and mustache. Appreciate that. I forgot that I have another stream going over on the Black Atheist Coalition channel. I need to go ahead and get on there. Let me see what's going on the Black Atheist Coalition channel, because I'm pretty sure there's plenty of questions there that I did not get to. I do apologize that if you're over on the Black Atheist Coalition channel and I didn't see your question, because I don't have that screen up. I'm putting on that screen right now. All right, over on a Deconstruction Junction. Yeah, free will. Mick Time says free will is also a contradiction to an all-powerful God, which I agree with as well. An all-powerful God contradicts free will definitely. Why can't Jesus give a good reason to believe instead of sending you with the mat? No, that's true. I've always said the same thing. Why can't God himself just go ahead and come down and tell us, like, yo, I'm here, bro. Like, just do that. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about like he did it in the book. Nah, bro, just come down unambiguously. Like, he could write his name in the moon right now and put Yahweh was here. He's all powerful. So why not just do that? I think that would be simpler than what currently happens. All right, y'all. I do apologize for the Black Atheist Coalition. I didn't see the comments there. I'm going to go ahead and look at the comments over on the Black Atheist Coalition. Deist here. How do you think base 64 code of DNA came into existence? Since you don't believe in the design creator, how was that an intelligent code and decoding mechanism exist? You should talk to a geneticist because I think you are imposing something onto DNA that may not actually be there. Let's see. I'm a deist. I agree with the atheist, and Almighty God should be able to forgive you without a blood sacrifice. Agreed. Exodus says God's name is jealous. Doesn't sound all powerful if he's externally jealous. I agree with that. How's it going, Steve? How's it going, Steve? All right. Walkman says there is a God. Your civilization operating on. Comment disappeared. I'm not sure what happened there. Comment disappeared. I'm not sure what happened there. All right, y'all. I appreciate you all being here. I'm only gonna be on for the next about maybe 10 to 15 minutes. I'm gonna get off early tonight. I just wanted to go ahead and do this live. It's an impromptu one. It is impromptu. Just wanted to get on, because tomorrow again I'm not gonna be live because I do have a loss in the family. One of my cousins passed away, so tomorrow and Saturday I'm gonna be with my family. Sunday, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be live. It's gonna depend on how I feel. Sunday I'll be back home early. It's going to depend on how I feel that day. I might take a break. Appreciate the hat and mustache again. Appreciate it. So I might take a break Sunday as well. But tonight, I just want to go live, do impromptu. I didn't want it to be high emotions today. Sunday, I may be back doing various topics one more time. All right. Bonehead says, just because he knows what you did and will do doesn't mean he made you do it. but you see, Bonehead, the issue here is that, and essentially he did make me do it, because if he created everything past, present, and future, plus he knows what I'm going to do, then he created my future as well, and he knew what I was going to do. I can't do anything different from what a God already knows. And if you're saying that he didn't make me do it, then what exactly is making me do it? If I can't do something different than what from your God already knows. All right. If Jesus is God, then you would actually have to prove that Jesus was a God then. And none of us can go back in time. So how do you prove it? God could write his name on the sky and you would say it's aliens. Yeah, probably. He will have to do something else. So Avo has a good point. He said if God wrote his name in the sky, I would probably say it's aliens. That yeah, there are people who would probably say that it's aliens. I probably wouldn't. I'll be like, there would have to be a reason why the aliens chose to put Yahweh instead of their name. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure there are people who would say that there are aliens, but for me, what I would say is that why did the aliens choose the name Yahweh and not something else? You see what I mean? There will have to be a reason for that. It's the same thing that I say for God to prove he exists, just give everyone the road to Damascus experience. Like all of us will know about Paul and the road to Damascus, right? If God were to give everybody on earth at the same time in their own language the road to Damascus experience, then there would be no doubt in my mind that, that's the God that exists. That doesn't mean I'll worship it or follow it. I will have a lot of questions for it. I won't worship it immediately, but I would have to go ahead. I'll be about 99% sure that's the God that exists. Even if you say that it was aliens who beamed that into everyone's head at the same time, why did aliens choose that religion? Why come they didn't choose Shintoism or voodoo or the Native American religions? Why did they choose Christianity? Why did they choose that one? You see what I'm saying? So yeah, if an ultra miracle like writing your name in the sky or everyone getting the road to the Damascus experience were to happen, there will be people who say that it could have been aliens. But again, if it's aliens, why did aliens choose that one? You see what I'm saying? So that's what will put in my mind that it's most likely that one that's true. I may not worship that God, but I will have to concede the argument that, yeah, that one is true then, or most likely true. All right. Did my cousins go to heaven? I don't know. I don't think a heaven exists. You're responsible for your own actions. I agree. The miracle at Fatima. I never heard that. Let's see. Yeah, you could draw Bible verses all day. I already know about Bible verses. I grew up Christian, so. Let's see. Over on Deconstruction Junction. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that, make time. Yeah, always check on your health, y'all. Always check on your health because it could be the smallest thing that could take you out. So always check on your health. Unfortunately for my cousin, we just didn't know. It came out of nowhere. Yeah, I mean, it came out of nowhere, which is why when Trump removed, or not just Trump, but when Doge cut cancer funding research, I don't know how to say how that's anything other than ghoulish. You know what I mean? Because hers came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere and took her out. You know what I mean? So we need to be funding cancer a lot more. We need a vaccine for cancer. We need all that. You know what I mean? We need all that. So it's I don't know what to say other than that it's ghoulish to take away cancer research. Let's see. But did you ever get saved? I thought I was saved. Yeah, I did the entire thing where I accepted Jesus as my Lord and personal Savior and all that good shit. I was baptized, all that good shit. I did all that. If our gospel be hid, it is hid to those that are lost. I mean, okay. All right. All right, y'all. 10 more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and get off. What is Pan-African? Pan-African is the ideology of people of African descent aiming for social, political, and economic autonomy from our former colonizers. That's what Pan-Africanism is, and that's what I believe we should be doing. I'm still here, y'all. I'm still here. I appreciate y'all. Let's see. If I said pro-white, would I be racist? The reason why that would be considered racist is because being quote unquote pro-white or white power, historically it's always been as a push of exclusionary and for a push for oppression of other groups. Pro-blackness and black nationalism has never been that. Pro-blackness, black power, black nationalism, it's never been an ideology to oppress other groups. But pro-white, white nationalism, and white power always has been. That's the difference. Do you think black churches should be black then Christian? Yes. Yes. Because Christianity is an idea you have. Your blackness is what you're born with, at least in our society, until we can deconstruct the race as a concept. Until we can deconstruct race as a concept, blackness is what you can never change. Appreciate the subscription. Appreciate that, y'all. Resist. I don't have the phone number in right now because I was thinking about putting the phone number up, but I was like, I'm only going to be here for a short time anyway. What's your view on Christianity? I don't think Christianity is true. I don't think black people should be Christian because it was the religion of our enslavers and colonizers. I also don't. I also think the same thing about Islam. I don't think Islam we should be Muslim either. I think that's also a colonizer religion. Yeah, I mean, it was used to enslave and colonize us as well. So I don't think we should be Christian or Muslim. Now, if people choose to be Christian, that's all good and well. I do think that Christianity does give a sense of community that exists, of course. I'm not going to deny that. That's an advantage of Christianity. There's a community there. Let's see. What I'm going to keep answering this question, but Pan-African means basically that what I believe is that people of sub-Saharan African descent, the nations and the ethnic groups, should unite in order to obtain political, social, and economic autonomy. That's what it means. Why has every pre- and post-colonial black nation failed? They haven't. There are post-colonial black nations that have survived and are actually doing pretty well. Pre-colonial black nations, they fell because of how every other empire has fell. There are multiple complex reasons for why nations fall, right? The Congo civilization, the reason why Congo failed was because of basically the War of Secession. The War of the Secession for the crown of Congo, it was basically like the War of the Roses. If you ever seen Game of Thrones, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So essentially the War of the secession crisis in Congo, it happened during a time where the Portuguese were ramping up the slave trade. And because they were ramping up the slave trade and there was a civil war in Congo, they were able to take advantage of that and break the groups apart, and that's how Congo fell. With Ashanti, they just got beat. To tell you the truth, that was it. They just got beat. When it came to the homie, it was basically the end of slavery. Yeah, I mean, and because the end of slavery, they couldn't keep up with economically, and it collapsed from there. Like there are reasons why these nations failed, right? Let's see. Too many tribal divisions in Africa to make Pan-Africanism work. That's exactly why Pan-Africanism is getting pushed, because of the tribal divisions. Pan-Africanism seeks to end those divisions and see a common goal for all people. That doesn't mean that the tribes are going to be exactly the same. Appreciate the hat and mustache. It doesn't mean that the tribes are going to be all exactly the same, but the goal is to end the tribal divisions and to see that we have a common goal. Let's see. What's funny is the religion wasn't meant for them either. It was for the Hebrews. That's true. That being said, do you think Black unity's best bet may be through a religion because of community? This is something I've talked to my lady about all the time. That in order for Black folks to, or people of African descent, to get into a movement of unity, a lot of times you have to make it quasi-religious. You know what I mean? And that's because we're already primed to accept a lot of religious claims in the first place, because of basically how society, basically how we've been colonized, right? We've already primed for that. So this is something that I've actually talked to my lady about as well. Like, in order for something like that to happen, do we have to make it religious or make it quasi-religious? A lot of times I'm like, yeah, maybe. You know what I mean? Sometimes I joke about starting a cult with her. I always joke about that. Like, yeah, baby, one time I'm gonna have a cult and we're gonna live in a pyramid and shit. Like, I'm usually joking, but when we talk about seriously, we talk about Black unity seriously, a lot of times we think like maybe got to make it quasi-religious. Like, it's because we're primed for that. You know what I mean? Let's see. Never seen an African with a pan. There are a lot of African cooks on TikTok and YouTube. You can look them up. They have plenty of pans. Yeah, pretty stupid question. Chad and Ghana are joining the AES with the promise of 10 more nations joining by the end of the year. Yeah, W. I hope Ghana and Chad do join. Let's see. I like Africans. I don't want to pan. Y'all, can y'all do me a favor? Just Google this. Can y'all do me a favor? Just Google this. Like, do you agree with slavery? Do you agree with slave reparations in America? Yeah. But I don't think that the reparations should be only for slavery. I think it should also be for Jim Crow, for redlining, for Black codes as well, and for mass incarceration. You could have some success with gathering Black people through religions, but it would only exaggerate the chosen one behavior. Agreed. And that's why that's my issue with it, right? With making it quasi-religious, because there's always going to be that chosen one type of narrative, and that always gets bad. It always gets bad. I'm interested in calling you a slur. What's your nationality? The slur you can call me is the man that fucked your mother last night. That's what you call me. All right. Thoughts on FBA fan club. When it comes to FBA, like I told my first guest, I don't have much of a big beef or an issue with the concept of delineation, right? Because there are issues that exist within the Haitian American community that may not be in the African American community. There is a reason to delineate, because if there are going to be policies set specifically for African Americans, which I agreed should happen, then the best way to do that is through a delineation thing. So I agree with that. I think the importance of delineation is there. Right? I don't have any issue or beef with that. My other issue is when things get disingenuous or when things get xenophobic. That's been my only issue with that entire movement, or that entire ideology. When you start saying that you're not, you're not even African anymore, then I have an issue. When you say that people who are of immigrant descent are suddenly your enemy for the resources, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? You're just fighting. I don't know what you're fighting at that point. You see what I'm saying? But when it comes to the issue of, listen, this is our culture and this is our people, we have to define that and gatekeep that. I don't have an issue with that. Let's see. What's your thoughts on Article 13 of the Brexit Agreement? I haven't read that. Is there no God then? If there is no God, then what animated you? We're not animated. Let's see. Do you support a specific political party? No. No, I do not. I volunteer more. I find myself aligning more with the DSA. But I'll probably be a little left of the DSA myself. But I align more with the DSA. I think the DSA has a more of a better chance to become a major political party than any of the other parties, to tell you the truth. All right. The separation serves white supremacy. Look at Tucker. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Sakari. That's what I mean when it comes to the entire FBA thing. One of my issues with when it comes to FBA, right, is when the disingenuousness start, right? Because now they started saying that Jasmine Crockett is Haitian because she has a grandmother from the 1800s who came to Louisiana after the Haitian Revolution. And she said that makes them Haitian. But if you ask a lot of people who are part of the entire FBA moniker, they'll tell you that in order to be considered FBA, one of your lineages have to be FBA. But all of a sudden, when it comes to Jasmine Crockett, her Haitian grandmother from the 1800s is all she wrote. Now she's Haitian. She's not FBA anymore. That's silly. Like that's type of double standard shifting narrative. It's crazy. Like, how can it's that type of mindset is crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? Because if we would say that Nipsey Hussle is Eritrean, they'll say, "Oh nah, he's FBA because his mom was FBA." But Jasmine Crockett, whose entire lineage, except for that one Haitian grandmother, now she's Haitian. The entire FBA lineage doesn't matter anymore. She's only Haitian. It's ridiculous. You have shifting standards. You know what I mean? And that's really been my big issue with them. Like when it gets disingenuous, that's when it becomes that's when my issue with them. But everything else, like when it comes to reparations, delineation, I've never had a beef with that. I've always said that's true. When it comes to black immigrants disrespecting black Americans, I'm just like, yeah, I'm with you on that. I have no issue with that. You know what I mean? But don't be disingenuous. The DSA is the Democratic Socialists of America. Did you go to college? Yeah, I'm in a master's program right now. For clinical mental health, counseling, and I went to Florida Memorial University. Let's see. If you claim that you are not animated, then you claim to be dead. What? All right. Former barn animal. Okay. Why you conservatives scared of Crockett and Hustle Mom was not? No, Nipsey Hussle, was his dad Eritrean or his mom? I think it was his dad. I think his mom was Black American and his dad was Eritrean. I'm gonna look that up again. I think his dad was Eritrean. Do you think Jesus Christ the man existed? Jesus existed. I don't have a problem with that. Crockett. I'm not scared of Crockett. I'm not scared at all of Crockett. Now, I did see that Crockett recently voted to send an aid package to Israel. That's gonna damage her. Just being honest, y'all. That's gonna damage her. Because right now, when it comes to the American left, Israel is the flashpoint. Support for Israel is the flashpoint. So her voting for that age packet is going to damage her. Now, I would love for a black woman to be in the Senate. I would definitely love for a black woman to be in the Senate. Yeah, I mean, if she wins that nomination in Texas, vote for her. That's what I would say. But that A package that she's voted for, people are gonna hit her on that. They're gonna hit her on that. All right, that's gonna damage for her. That's a flashpoint for the left right now. And I understand here in America, we have our own issues. I am not denying that at all. Here in America, we have our own issues. There's something that we need to worry about here in the United States. 100% agreed, right? So at times we have to be pragmatic. I don't, if James Tallarico gets to the Senate, I don't doubt that there's going to be a bill that benefits Israel that he's probably going to vote for. I don't doubt that. Does that mean that he's better than the senator that's there now? Yeah. He's way better. You see what I'm saying? So we have to be pragmatic about it. But right now, her vote for that package in the House, that's going to affect her, y'all. That's going to affect her. People are going, that's going to hit at some points. It's going to hit at some points. So that's just how it is. All right. So Whitey, that's a crazy name. That's how you turn from Democrat to Republican. I actually became a lot happier when I actually became happier the more left I got. When I was younger, I was actually a lot more conservative. I was against gay marriage. I was a Christian. I was against abortion rights. I was very socially conservative. I was one of those people when I was like from age 19 to about 23, I went through a whole libertarian stage. You know what I mean? I was like, privatize the post office. You know what I mean? Maybe anarcho-capitalism would work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was one of those guys when I was younger. And then I went a lot more left because I realized that a lot of these policies would not work. They would not work. And I started to worry about what is the conditions of poor people and how can we do better? Do I have kids? That's a touchy subject for me because last year I went through me and my lady went through something, but I don't have kids yet, but we want to. Let's see. Yes, see. So you believe he existed, but you just don't believe what he claimed. Okay, so the person that asked me earlier, Zenith asked me if I believe that Jesus was a real person. I believe Jesus was a real person. His follow-up question is, so you believe he existed, but you just don't believe what he claimed. Correct. I don't believe what he claimed. And we have no evidence that what he claimed is true because none of us can go back in time. So there's no way for us to show that it's true. Let's see. Unless it was grown in a lab, every child ever is guilty of violating a woman's bodily autonomy without her consent. So there's no such thing as an innocent child. I'm not sure about that one. I don't think that's what we mean. Matt Rush, she is smart, which you cannot only come up with a dumbass comment. Okay, well, y'all just arguing over Jasmine Crockett. Listen, I think Jasmine Crockett is intelligent. I don't have beef with Jasmine Crockett. I think she's intelligent, right? I think she's a good option. Yeah, I mean, I think she's intelligent and she's a good option. It's just that the bills that she voted for, especially the current one, the one that she did vote for, that's gonna damage her. It's a moral test for the left right now. I'm telling you, it's gonna damage her. May your efforts be straightened and you raise a good family. Hey, I appreciate that, Sincere. That's what I want to do. I want to raise a good family. We want to have 4. We want to have a boy and a girl, and then we're going to adopt 2. That's what we want to do. Oh, I apologize that I missed the question about Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is the ideology that people of African descent should gain autonomy politically, socially, and economically from former colonizers and neocolonialists. Gavin Newsom, he's too neoliberal for me. Gavin Newsom is too neoliberal for me. All right. You don't believe Bible is true, but you believe in most teachings of Jesus based on disciples. I mean, the things that Jesus taught, like, caring for the poor and needy, being charitable, loving people, stuff like that. Yeah, sure. I believe in those, but I don't think those are unique, right? I don't think those are unique to Jesus. Like Buddhism teaches that. All right. I argue Jesus never existed. Someone over on the Black Atheist Coalition named Michelle says, I argue Jesus never existed. I think there is more evidence that Jesus existed than not. We do have some sources that he was a guy, right? We just don't have any sources to say that, he actually rose from the dead. That's what we don't have. I appreciate the 10 jewels. I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree with that, Pandora. A lot of women consent to pregnancy, so that's kind of a silly argument to me that what he was making. All right. McTime says, do you regard yourself African? I don't know anything about Africa. Do you think something is wrong with that thought? No. If you don't know anything about it, you can always look it up. Like, of course, you can always learn from the people who lived over in Africa. You can always do that. I'm saying, so if you don't view yourself as African because you were born here and you don't have any connection to like that, then yeah, I don't have any beef with you. What I would say is that a lot of the cultures on this side of the planet, the ethnic Black groups on this side of the planet, we've retained a lot of African culture. So we've retained a lot of it, especially from Western Africa. If you look at like pounded yam and our rice, the way that we cook our rice, even our hairstyles, a lot of that was retained from Africa. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have a lot of that. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that even if you don't connect with the term, I get it, but a lot of the culture is still African derived. Let's see. Bro, there's evidence of his existence and his events. There's evidence of his existence. Not that, he killed people and flew to the sky like Superman. There's no evidence of that. We can't go back in time. You know what I mean? So where is the evidence that we have that he actually did these things? The only thing that we can go about is the Bible itself. And the Bible itself is a claim. There's no evidence of anything supernatural. There's no way we can prove it. All right. What's your point of view on the active slavery trade in Africa? It's terrible. Slavers should be put on the wall. Evidence of Jesus' existence, but not of his events. Yeah, evidence of his existence, but not of the supernatural events. The fetus acts regardless of consent. Yes, the fetus acts regardless of consent. True, but if you're consenting to the fetus being there, then you're consenting to its are not consenting to its actions. You know what's going to happen when you're pregnant. Yeah, there is still slavery in 2026. I think a country in Africa, Mauritania, if I'm not mistaken, still has like literal chattel slavery happening in Mauritania. There's also, of course, people sex slavery, essentially. There's that too. I'll concede human exist and Jesus was said to be human. The miracle is made up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The miracles are made up. All right. Big Time says, I love Jasmine Crockett. She's beautiful, but I see she wears crosses. I think that may have affected her Israel vote. And I know that you can't get into place any other way. Yeah, a lot of Black Christians are Zionists. As crazy as that sounds, a lot of Black Christians are Zionists. You know what I mean? And that's something that we just got to deal with. There are a lot of Black Christians who are Zionists. Don't forget Asia, the number one place on earth that has slavery right now, Asia and Africa. I know there's slavery in the United Arab Emirates. Is that Asia you're talking about, or like East Asia? like China, Japan, Korea, Mongolia, Taiwan, those places, they have slavery. If they do, that's crazy. I don't even know if they did. There's more evidence for Augustus and Tiberius Caesar than Jesus. No, there is. I agree with that, Michelle. All right. Proof against the possibility of a God creating this universe. That's not how that works. Slavery never required justification. It was abolition that did. Hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate the super chat. Appreciate the super chat. Shout out to the good content. Old white woman in the house. Hey, that's what OWW means. Old white woman. That's what it means. Old white woman. Hey, I appreciate that, yo. I appreciate that, old white woman. Appreciate the super chat. All right. Proof against the possibility of a God creating a universe. That's not how that works. You don't prove a negative. Mercy and justice are mutually exclusive. I can see that. All right. The earth was already here. God just formed the world into chaos. Yeah, you got to prove that, bro. I love listening for just a little bit to jackasses like this. It helps me reaffirm my faith in the truth. I mean, Tony, I'm not sure why you're being insulting. I never said anything to you. Let's see. People that are just focusing on the shadow slavery that's happening years prior in the country, although important, that should be energy spent towards the ones that are surviving through Asia and Africa. Excuse me. I could agree with that, right? The thing is, history doesn't happen in a vacuum. So the issues of the past, the slavery that happened in the past, it still affects us today. And we know that because of the stereotypes that exist, of the way these nations formed, those type of things. I mean, look at all the racism that I just have to deal with. So it's, even though it's in the past, it still has effects today because, again, slavery doesn't happen in the vacuum. I mean, not slavery, history doesn't happen in a vacuum. It just doesn't, you know? It affects us. The fact that the Bible lost Jesus for 18 years after tracking him from that's kind of funny. You don't need to believe in gravity to fall. Truth doesn't require faith. Yeah, agreed. Let's see. Volcy is an evolved genetic trait. Richard Dawkins' protege, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and Josh Tillman both converted to Christianity. It is an evolved genetic trait. I don't think, actually, you may be onto something with that because I think as human beings, we do have a predisposition to believe in something beyond ourselves. We do have that predispositions. That is what we found out, right? Because of just how human beings are pattern detectors, we're agency detectors. So we kind of see patterns and agency and everything. So that's why, belief is kind of like predisposed in us. But I don't think it's genetic to the point where we can't escape it, if that makes sense. Okay, why do atheists think they can say God doesn't exist and expect Christians to prove he does? But yet, if you are asked to prove he didn't, you defer is not your proof he doesn't. Well, Skull, I never said God doesn't exist. I said I don't have any proof to believe it. Now, if you're saying that God does exist, go ahead and prove it. There's just as many educated Muslim. Where do you think algebra came from? Oh, you're talking to somebody else. What race has not benefited from slavery? Black people. I know for a fact the mother god Grace exists. A lot of more people honor her. I don't know. You got to prove she exists, bro. Let's see. And with New Age, especially black people seeing and believing, to them, that's what's wrong. Faith came. Okay. Comments are kind of going too fast. Let's see. My experience with God prove he exists. You can't argue my experiences. I can't argue with your experience, right? But that's just hearsay to me. How like I could say I had experience with the pink dragon. That doesn't mean the pink dragon exists, right? What does Pan-African mean in short again? Like African unification. Yeah, basically, not just unification, but essentially, the push for autonomy, social, political, and economic autonomy away from former colonizers. What's going on, Christ Before Jesus? I appreciate you being here, Christ Before Jesus. Y'all follow Christ Before Jesus. Christ Before Jesus actually is a person who doesn't believe that, or who actually claims that Jesus never existed. Now, I have no problem with the concept of Jesus existing, but Christ Before Jesus actually does content on Jesus and Paul never existing, which is kind of an interesting take. Do your parents believe? Yeah, my parents do believe. All right. Soldier Allah. How's it going, Soldier Allah? What questions?
How are you?
I'm all right. What questions did you have for me?
Sure. So I'm not really here to argue or anything. Just probably ask a few questions and hop off because I only got a few minutes.
Sure thing.
My question is, do you negate the possibility that there is a creator in the sense that there is a entity that's responsible for all creation, or are you kind of like you're not convinced that there is a sufficient evidence for it?
I'm not convinced there's sufficient evidence for it. Yeah, I mean, like I'm not saying that it's completely impossible. I guess to be philosophically correct, anything is possible, but I don't have the evidence to believe it.
Okay, so it is possible, but you wouldn't be convinced because there's a lack of evidence that would convince you to come to that conclusion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you're agnostic then.
Yeah, I'm agnostic atheist. Basically, I don't claim to know whether or not one exists, but I don't believe in one.
Sure, I understand that. So you probably heard this argument a million times, but I'll just run contingency. Do you believe you could have an infinite regression of contingent created things? By created, I'm defining created as something that came into existence. By contingent, I would just mean like one X is dependent on Y is dependent on Z, so on and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think an infinite regress is necessarily impossible, but since I'm not a person that's an expert on physics or anything like that, I wouldn't be able to give like a sufficient reason why it's not. I would think like a person who's into or is an expert in like physics and quantum mechanics, they may be able to explain to you more why an infinite regress is actually physically possible, but I wouldn't be able to.
Sure. Well, I'm not someone who's like well read on physics either, but I think I could give an analogy. It won't be one-to-one, but you could kind of see where I'm coming from. And like I said, I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'll just give my case, and you could tell me whether you believe it's a good reason or not. That's all I'd like to hear, your opinion. But I guess the analogy I could give, do you believe you could have an infinite regression of ancestors, meaning you don't exist without your parents wouldn't exist without theirs? Can that go back infinitely, or would there be a set of persons who started your entire bloodline and are the reason you exist today?
There will have to be a set, right? Of course, it will go back to like the single cell organism, but there would have to be,
Sure.
Yeah, something like that.
Sure. Okay. So using that same analogy and that logic, right? You wouldn't exist without your parents and so on and so on. If we look at creation, do you believe we could infinitely go back and have things that came into existence that are dependent on something else? Or would there be a set point where creation began?
And you see, that's the thing. That's where it gets into like physics and when it comes to the universe. I've heard from physicists that says that, yeah, it could infinitely regress. That actually is possible. But I won't be able to explain that all the way.
Sure. Well, for the sake of the conversation, if you're not able to posit that case, we could just dismiss it, right? Unless you could bring someone up that could convince me that there could be an infinite regression of things that came into existence which are dependent on something else.
I think I have some of the answers to what you're saying, if you'll let me explain.
So yeah,
all right, so firstly with the life thing, I just want to say that I know you didn't brought it up, but it's a popular argument with like theists. It's that, well, life, we haven't created life from non-life yet. which is a little bit disingenuous because if you look at things like viruses and sperm cells, they are technically not considered life forms, especially viruses, but they do have autonomy in the sense that they move with and they create their own power and they absorb other resources like life was, but they're technically not evolved enough to be considered life. And we don't understand where viruses came from, but seeing as they aren't life, they had to come from more non-living material. And seeing as they're also in the brink of life, they're in a millions of years they could evolve into life, which is proof that life can evolve from nothing. Also, furthermore, seeing as all the elements of life are elements of non-life too, we just haven't understand how the combination is created, but there's no direct evidence that life can't exist without it. And furthermore, our idea of life is kind of biased in the sense that we are life, but there's nothing that really separates life from non-life because it's all the same materials. And obviously it's not completely understood, which is why this debate is happening, but oh yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I just wanted to butt in. So what I'm trying to establish is just a principle of whether, for example, let me try and give another analogy. My position, we could just use the alphabet for this, right? So my position is, let's say Z, in order for Z to exist, it depends on Y depends on X, and you would keep going back, right? I'm not concerned with the material or the non-material, the life or the non-life, right? I just want to establish the principle that I'm not convinced, or I don't believe an infinite regression could exist. And I'll use this analogy. So within my worldview, I would believe Z is dependent on Y is dependent on X, and that it'll ultimately go back to A. And A will be the starting point and the quote unquote creator or cause of all things, which would be A through Z. Would you say that A would be the set point, or would you say you would infinitely go back and the alphabet will never end?
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I got to pause this real quick. Like I would love to get into this is back and forth, but I do gotta go soon. So it's this was really just a question and discussion. This was really an ask me anything, so we can discuss, so I can get off soon and make this a quick one. I have about maybe 5 more minutes, and then I gotta really get off. I gotta pack. I gotta travel tomorrow. But I do appreciate you all being up here. But Soldier, did you have any other question for me?
I guess for you specifically, no. So I'll just hop off for now.
No, not a problem. You can come back anytime. All right, just follow me. Sure. I go live Thursday through Sundays. This weekend I'm not going to be on, but next week I will. All right.
Okay. Sure. Thanks for having me.
I did have questions for you, if you let me ask them.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to preface this by saying I am an American of European descent, so I don't really have a dog in this fight with the Pan-African thing. Mm-hmm. But I was wondering, when you mean Pan-Africanism, is there any like attempts, or what would be the plan for uniting all these very, very different cultures within Africa, seeing as how diverse Africa is culturally and ethnically? Is there like a plan you have, or is that in development?
That's in the development. As a matter of fact, Pan-Africanism is old. I mean, it's a very old ideology. There used to be Pan-African congresses going back to like the 1940s. 1920s, 1930s. W.B. Du Bois was part of the Pan-African Congress. So was Marcus Garvey. Malcolm X was part of Pan-African congresses. Even MLK was. So these are like very old ideologies. It just hasn't developed a lot in a while because of everything that Africa is going through. But the discussions and the plans were basically was how do we use, or how do we connect in a way where we can understand that we can respect all of the different diversity and cultures that exist, but still move as one unit, because unity is not uniformity, right? We don't all have to be exactly the same in order for us to become into a united faction to fight against a certain thing. That's what we can do. How can we use our different ideas, our different perspectives in order to fight against colonization and neo-colonization? That's what it really is. And that question is still being answered today. What's not helping it is, number one, sectarianism. That of course, like colonized mindsets. That's like what's going on in Senegal right now, which is crazy, which is the English speaking Senegalese and the French speaking Senegalese are fighting each other over languages that they don't even own. That's not even theirs. You know what I mean? So all of those are issues that you have to get through. I know it's not a perfect answer, but that's essentially it. Yeah, my lady's looking at me. I got to get off in a few minutes, but I hope that answered that.
It did, yeah. I just want to say that my beliefs actually kind of align, but of course I'm European and I care about my people, but I agree that like Christianity has colonized the minds of my people because I'm ethnically Scottish. And of course our cultures have been erased by the Christianization, the Romanization, and our people quarreled between religion and languages that are not our own to the detriment to our own. So I just want to say I support what you're saying. I really do.
So within my worldview,
no, not a problem. Hey, I appreciate you being up, but I do got to get out here soon. So I'm gonna drop you, but please hit me a follow and I'll go live Thursday through Sunday. I'll be live again next week. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Sakari, how's it going? You're gonna be my last person, and I got to go ahead and get out of here. How's it going, bro?
All right, hey, what's going on? I just really had just topics I wanted to hear your thoughts on. One was the FBA ideology being used on Tucker Carlson's show when he was talking to some Florida dude running for politics, trying to talk about tethers and whatnot.
Yep.
I've been saying for the longest that that's a CIA conspiracy to try to disrupt the Pan-African movement because it's our best bet on creating sustainability for ourselves and people of the diaspora. Just want to hear your thoughts on that. And then number two would be, what is your thoughts on them trying to use propaganda to create a false Red Scare with the United States citizens and Chinese ideology, or not ideology, but Chinese just creating better lives for themselves?
Hey, I appreciate the hat and mustache. All right. Capitalism always requires an underclass and an enemy. Yeah, I mean, so the Red Scare that you're talking about, exactly. Yeah, I mean, oh crap, he left. Damn. So yeah, the Red Scare that you're talking about, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so they need to create an enemy in order for the hegemony to still exist, right? They need to create that enemy. As far as FBA being a CIA plot, I think diaspora wars are more of a CIA plot. I think FBA is more of a reaction to it, but diaspora wars are definitely a CIA thing. That's what I think. I think the broader thing of Africans, Caribbean people, and African Americans all arguing with each other and fighting each other and shit like that. I think that's fueled by COINTELPRO, definitely, because we did find that a lot of these Twitter, no problem, Sakari, I'm sorry. We did find a lot of these Twitter profiles, like the ones that disparage black men, were based all in Pakistan, right? We did find Twitter profiles that disparage black women were based in like what's that place called, like India and shit like that. We found a lot of these, right? A lot of these so-called black American profiles, or profiles that had African flags on them that disparage black Americans. A lot of them was based in Russia. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely a troll farm. It's definitely a CIA thing, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So, but hey, y'all, I'm going to get out of here, but I do appreciate y'all joining me tonight. I am going to get out of here. I do apologize that the live went out for a few minutes. FBA is a natural ground rule. The problem is, for the first time in our existence, we've decided to center ourselves, and people are mad. Here's the thing that I've said over and over again on this live. I have no issue with delineation, right? Because I think that's something that is important to do. We need to understand that just because we're all black people doesn't mean that we're going to go through the same issues. What if Haitians have higher rates of diabetes than African Americans do? That's a specific issue that we need to solve, right? So delineation is something that's important and needs to happen, right? We need to understand these different groups and how to deal with them, because there's diversity there. My only issue with FBA, with people who do FBA or claim the FBA moniker, is when it gets disingenuous and when it gets xenophobic. And a perfect example of when it gets disingenuous is Jasmine Crockett. People are now saying that she's Haitian because of a Haitian grandmother that existed back in the 1800s. However, an FBA person would also say, in order for you to be FBA, all you have to have is one parent or one of your lineages have to be FBA. That explains Jasmine Crockett to a T. Her entire lineage is FBA, but because of that one Haitian grandmother, she's not FBA anymore. That's disingenuous. You see what I'm saying? So that's like, there's other issues too, but she's a perfect example of when it gets disingenuous. I don't have an issue with it any other way. Like, I understand that Black Americans are their own thing, their own culture needs to be gatekept, and I do understand that Black immigrants have disrespected Black Americans. Like, none of this is in doubt, right? None of this is even an argument, but we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent, and there's no need to be xenophobic. That's always been my only thing with it. That's always been my only thing with it. But all right, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I do appreciate everybody being here. I do appreciate y'all being here with me today. Y'all are wonderful. For all the racists who are in the comments, thank you for giving me views. And I fucked your mother last night. For all the Christians who were in the comments, either calling me stupid or saying that Christ is king, all good and well. If Christ is king, go ahead and prove it. That's all you gotta do. Go ahead and prove it. For people who are asking what Pan-Africanism is, look it up. There is you can find out what Pan-African is if you just look it up. But y'all, I do appreciate all y'all being here today, and I do appreciate all of the gifts, and I do appreciate all of the support that I've gotten. This weekend, y'all, will not be on because unfortunately, I do have a member of my family who passed away. My cousin did pass away at the young age of 30. Check your health. Always check your health, y'all. Always check your health. Because it could be the smallest thing. All right. It could always be the smallest thing. She didn't know she had it. She didn't know she had cancer, y'all. So, and when we found out, it was too late. You know what I mean? So always check on your health. All right. And I appreciate y'all. I want to leave y'all with a mantra that I came up with just the other day, because I do want to start doing content on masculinity and everything like that. So I just want to tell you all to hug your mother, be secure, affectionate, wise, flexible, and trustworthy. Be self-controlled, be attentive, be well-reasoned, be fair, be tempered. That just means to be soft. All right. All men should be soft, secure, affectionate, wise, flexible, and trustworthy. All men should be soft. And I appreciate y'all. All right. I am going to get out of here.